This coastal waterway near Galveston, Texas, was once ranch land owned by the first Anglo rancher in Texas, James Taylor White. It's still in the family, and Bill White now owns this ranch and carries forth the family tradition of cattle raising. Bill is leading the cattle to their grazing grounds.
The intercoastal waterway was put in the mid-1930s. Before they put it in, it was just all one solid piece of land and went all the way to the coast.
This split the ranch's grazing pastures.
So that necessitated us either hauling the cattle around or swimming, and these cows are so accustomed to being south of the intercoastal in the marsh in the winter that if you get a norther blow in and those cattle aren't over there, they'll voluntarily swim on their own. To get the cattle to cross, and we just drive the cattle down a road at dead ends. They're used to it. They know what's going on. And the biggest problem is the current in the canal. Every time we turn around, they're dredging it deeper and wider, and we've sat probably for an hour, hour and a half at times waiting for the barge traffic to subside. You don't need a long period of time, but you need 20 or 30 minutes to get all that.
Everybody's having fun. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's having fun. Well, I know I sure have
A barge is just passed, there'll be an undercurrent from the propeller wash from the boat. A lot of times when you swim these cattle, they'll swim out in the middle of that canal and they'll hit that thing and it'll turn them around or turn them downstream, upstream. When you swim large bunches of cattle, they kind of create their own current also just from the swimming action of all the cattle. More Burma-influenced cattle always swim quite a bit better than the crossbred cattle. It's just their nature. They have quite a bit more go in them. We have been primarily breeding them to Charolais bulls. The bulls take a lot of maintenance, a lot of care, extra feed. We have about a 120-day breeding season in the spring, and then we put these bulls back out in the fall for about 45 days to try to pick up cattle that we might have missed.
He's gonna haul those bulls back around there. They just haul better than do swimming. Bulls swim all right, but we have lost a lot of those bulls like that.
More body mass, and so they tend to drown. Plus they cost a lot more money than these cows do too, so there's no swimmers in their background. James Taylor White I, who would be my great-great-grandfather. They call him the Cattle King of Texas. He was one of the first ranchers to really ranch on a large scale. In the 1830s, James Taylor White,
along with other ranchers,
were driving thousands of heads of cattle back to Louisiana down what they call the Opelousas Trail. They would end up at the Chaffalay River Basin before you get to Baton Rouge, and they would haul these cattle either with a barge or go by steamboat across the Chaffalay. They unloaded them south of New Orleans. Cattle cattle at that time were worth $3 or $4 a head in Texas, and they were selling New Orleans for $10 or $12. They came from Louisiana. They knew that the market was behind them, and so it was a logical step for them to move cattle back. When they drove these cattle to New Orleans, there's 5 or 6 major rivers between here and there that they had to cross. Swimming the intercoastal is really a minor event compared to what these folks had to go through. I can't even imagine the ordeal of getting that done. The brand that we use is one of the oldest Anglo brands in the state. Was brought by James Taylor White I, who would be my great-great-grandfather. Family history says that they came in 1819.
The Spaniards brought the first brands, but James Taylor White was the first Anglo settler to establish his brand in Texas when it was still Spanish territory.
His brand is called a Cross W. It's been in continuous use in Texas ever since then, and actually was in use in Louisiana and probably the Carolinas also. They, like a lot of folks that immigrated into East Texas, came from Virginia through the Carolinas. They settled in Louisiana for 30 or 40 years before they moved to Texas.
The White family was part of a great migration that came from England to the Carolinas. The first James Taylor White was born in Virginia in 1701. His family, along with other colonists, migrated from cattle-raising areas of England to the Virginia and Carolina colonies. These English cattlemen were called stock keepers. They had developed a system of raising cattle that evolved over many centuries. They lived in small villages, and the livestock grazed on the commons, which were mutually shared moorlands. In the winter, they burned the moors to promote new grass in the spring. They branded their animals, and in the fall sold their cattle to the drovers who trailed them to the English markets. They used dogs to protect the herd, to gather and drive cattle. In the colonies, they purchased homesteads of 200 acres. The climate was mild and the woodlands were free for grazing cattle. They set up their operations along the Savannah and Edisto rivers. They used the system they knew so well. Cattle grazed on common ground. The grazing grounds were burned in the winter. Calves were penned, then marked and branded. And in the fall, the cattle were rounded up for butchering. And they used their dogs to find, gather, and move the cattle. In the new colony, they purchased slaves from cattle-raising areas of West Africa and incorporated their African tradition of penning cattle at night. And this resulted in the Carolina cow pens. In today's lingo, this would be the equivalent to a ranch. But the cattlemen here were called stock keepers or cow keepers. The cow hunters were generally slaves who cleared the scrublands and gathered the cattle. With the coming of the American Revolution, some of these Anglo stock keepers, loyal to Britain, headed west with their slaves to Georgia, Mississippi, and Louisiana. The James Taylor White family was part of this migration. They headed to Louisiana, which at the time was Spanish territory. The new cow towns became Natchez and New Orleans. The White brand was registered in Louisiana in 1790. It was passed on to James Taylor White, who carried it to Texas.
Call him the Cattle King of Texas. He was one of the first ranchers to really ranch on a large scale.
The James Taylor White brand was passed down through 5 generations.
It's the brand that James Taylor White first brought to Texas with him when he came from Louisiana.
Bill White not only got the brand, he was raised on the James Taylor White Ranch and now owns it. The ranch,
It's right on the coast, 30 or 40 miles from the Sabine River. You know, we have a lot more in common with folks in Louisiana than we do in Texas as far as the climate, the environment. We were in a high rainfall area that we get 55 or so inches of rain a year. In a wet year, we can get 90 or 100 inches. Down in the marsh where we primarily ranch, there are nutria rats, muskrats, alligators. Alligators can be an issue if they get in a water hole. They will occasionally get a baby calf. One day we were moving some cattle and one of my hands rode up on a tank dam and heard a bunch of noise. Alligator had a baby calf by the head and was dragging him in the water. Decided to stop it from happening, and he picked up a piece of a fence post and hit the alligator on the head, and he did turn the calf loose. Most of the grasslands on our ranch are marsh-type grasses. They burn these pastures to improve the quality of the forage. This is something that's been going on for hundreds of years.
Bill's older brother James recalls the early years on the ranch.
We all lived up here around this Stoll town site, but we traveled down there every day to the ranch, and you'd saddle up there in the morning and leave and ride maybe 5 or 6 miles. Sometimes we'd get in maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to eat lunch. We always had plenty of iced tea.
The first non-Spanish cowboys were the slaves who worked the cattle on the plantations and migrated with their owners to Texas. In Texas, they picked up the Spanish style of handling cattle on horseback, and these black cowhands became expert horsemen.
The black cowboys were good hands, weren't scared of anything. They knew that ranch and country real well.
We handle the cattle on the ranch quite a bit. In the wintertime, we pasture these cattle in pretty large pastures and pretty large herds. There'll be 700 or 800 to 1,500 of them in a pasture. When we gather them in the spring, we start by parting out cows and calves in groups of about 150. We have to swim these cattle across the intercoastal waterway. You can't have a too large a group of cattle. And since we handle these cattle so much, we're able to do just about anything we want to do with them horseback. They don't handle worth a flip a foot, but they handle very well horseback. We don't have to do a lot of roping, and I could probably count on two hands the number of times in a year that we rope a cow. I do have a hand or two that are real handy with a rope, but they didn't learn it here. More characteristic of this part of the world, a lot of people carry cow whips for the noise factor and also to encourage cattle to move. That is more akin to what happens here, is what happens in Louisiana and Florida and places like that. We've been raising horses for a little while. I had it with a son of Mr. Gunsmoke that I bred. Right now I have a son of Gray Starlight. He's a cut and bred horse. We're riding some colts out of him.
In the earlier years, it was pot luck what kind of horse you might get at 4 in the morning.
Cowboys go in there before daylight. Had a lot of old horses with bays and browns and blacks. Sometimes they'd catch the wrong horse. Maybe a horse that hadn't been ridden in 2 or 3 years and half broke, but it was just tough luck. You had to saddle him and ride him. A lot of them would get bucked off. They had to get back on. You'd change horses at noon. As soon as I'd get through eating, I'd have to go pen the horses. If it was real hot in the summertime, my grandpa, he wouldn't let you work in the hot too hard on the horses. He didn't care too much about the men. He said, men, you can stand it, but the horses and the cattle can't.
This morning, Bill and the boys are gathering cattle for vaccinations.
Bring them up here and stop them for a minute to ease these bulls out. We're running Brahma crossbred cattle. We have a herd of Brayford type cattle, and about a third of them are more Brahma type cattle that we put Hereford bulls on to raise replacement heifers. The Brahma cattle are highly adapted to the heat and humidity and the insects that we have down here. They're just a hardier breed.
The Brahmas come from India. They were first introduced in South Carolina in 1835. And 20 years later in Louisiana. They were banned in 1906 when 18 died while in quarantine. Since the ranchers could no longer get Brahmas from India, they imported them from Brazil through Mexico. A herd of 90 were brought across the Rio Grande in 1924 and were distributed throughout Texas. That same year, a breeders' association was formed. Crossbreeding these cattle with Herefords or Charolais makes them resistant to heat and ticks, and they can swim and travel long distances.
It's what works in our country. We can't get too far away from what will work because the environment here is so harsh that it's just what it takes.
The bulls will have a free ride to the pens.
We did that just because they don't handle hot weather real well, and driving them that far, they would never make it here. Yeah, we'll just load them in the trailer. They're real easy to load and haul them over here and put them back in the cabin.
I've been fortunate enough, I've always had pretty good help. These Mexican boys, most of them have been with me for 25 or 30 years. Very good hands and dependable and hard workers.
I'm gonna give them some water medicine when the kettle's passing through right here on the chute.
These vaqueros came from Mexico but consider this home now.
En Guanajuato, Dolores Hidalgo,
San Luis,
Irapuato, Guanajuato. Mexico City, Guanajuato. Since I have my green card, I'm right here working in this place. Working kettles, build the fence, a little bit of drive a tractor, a little bit of everything.
Decided they didn't want to go the way they should have. A couple of them ran off, and when they did, the rest kind of followed. It happens every once in a while, especially with these cattle. These are Bremer cows, and they don't want to cooperate. Home cow. Huh? Oh, big mama. Hey.
Everybody right here doing something different to put the yellow tag on there or poach him or whatever needed to do.
They don't have a very good deposition there. We do everything horseback, so they don't see people on foot is about this close to them. They're not very very easy to get along with.
Not what you call people friendly. We leave the horns on these cattle because it makes it easier working them in this running chute. We don't work them in a squeeze chute. If you have a muley cow, first thing she'll do is run in here and put her head underneath the next one in front of her, and so you can't get to her head. The horns make it a lot easier, and it's also easier in the pack when you're working the cattle and handling them. It also makes it very difficult to catch them in a squeeze chute too. We tip them so that if they do go to fighting, they can't injure you nearly as bad. So there's not a lot of danger of us getting hooked, but more for protection of the horses.
The coast ranchers have to worry about hurricanes. In 2008, Hurricane Ike hit them hard.
We moved the cattle as far north as we could get them. We had probably 2,500 head of cows that went through a storm surge. They were only in it for probably a mile or a mile and a half. Really pretty fortunate we lost a couple hundred head of cattle. The surge wiped out pretty well all the fences.
We rebuilt every fence on the ranch. Probably our little crew right here built 75 miles of fence ourselves, and then we hired some of it done.
Bill is always looking for ways to be more efficient.
It's just something we came up with, the way to carry these bottles of medicine around, use these automatic guns. I had a saddle maker make them for us. I used to put this medicine in a hot water bottle and do the same thing, then we came up with that idea, which works a lot better. It's supposed to be 115 cows right there. That's why we work on this long chute. It's quite a bit faster than trying to do it in a squeeze chute.
Texas settlers brought their cattle dogs with them, and most East Texas ranchers still use them. It's not usual to see a big longhorn among the cattle. This is a lead steer, a tradition that came from the Spanish.
He'll bring them right on in the pens, usually with no trouble. You know, he's a lot gentler than the cow dog.
Today they're sorting cattle. Some of the cows will go to the auction. Instead of sorting on horseback, they run the cattle through a chute with one man controlling the gate.
Culling out heifers. The ones we're going to save going this way, the one to go sell go this way.
The dogs help move the cattle through.
That'll be 14 and 2 calves.
South Carolina branding roundups took place twice a year. The cow hunters would bring the calves into a small enclosure for branding. Unlike the Spaniards who roped the cattle from horseback, they would grab a cow by one horn and throw the other arm over her back. Then another would grab her hind leg and flip her. This was a strenuous job, so they found an easier one, the squeeze chute.
This brand right here is the J9. That brand right there is the 300. And there's an open A and a steeple E.
It's for bangs vaccination. It's a tattoo that goes in their ear.
Brisket, pork chops, and sausage.
Just the other side of Galveston, Stephen Austin was given a Mexican land grant, and this made him the first Anglo impresario. Austin outfitted a schooner named the Lively with supplies for 300 families. The ship sailed from Louisiana with 20 colonists, headed for the mouth of the Colorado River. But bad weather blew the ship off course, and they landed at the Brazos River.
Stephen F. Austin and them settled here first down at Jones Creek. They call it Peach Point.
Brazoria town got its name from Stephen F. Austin. He called it Brazoria.
Brazoria County is one of the first counties in Texas known for cattle. In the old days, everybody would get their cattle together and they'd put them down on the salt grass. Come springtime, well, everybody would round the cattle up, take them a week, get everybody's cattle cut out of the herd. There's still people today that run cattle together.
Ranchers here follow the Louisiana traditions. They gather cattle with black-mouthed cur dogs.
They'll go out there and bail them up, and we'll call them off, and then we drive them to the pens. The dogs
teach the cattle to wad up. And once they're wadded up, then they know not to run off.
Tomorrow is the annual cattle drive through town. Dogs will help.
We tie hard and fast here in the pasture. We try to not rope if we don't have to. Try to get along and have the easiest and the best day we can. They're bred to hunt cattle in the wood bottoms. Go out and find them and bay them up and hold them wherever they find them. What we was doing is just baying them up, getting ready for the drive tomorrow through town. Cut a few out of the herd and let the dogs bring them back to show them a little respect. Most time if you just got a dog there in the presence of some dog broke cattle, they'll stay bunched up. I would find a cow that I'd feel uncomfortable with and I would cut her out of the herd, and once I'd cut her out of the herd, then I'd hit some dogs on her and let them bay her up and bring her back to the herd. And then she'd know that she wasn't supposed to be outside that herd. Once they bay up the cattle, that's about all they're useful for us, and they drive along with us when we drive the cattle.
Local cowboys help drive the cattle through town.
There used to be a railhead station here, and they'd send cattle to Kansas, and that's what the cattle drive's all about.
Corey Brett, Andre Delta, Ryan Goder.
Big Roger.
East Texas has plenty of water and plenty of grass, but head southwest of brush country and it's a less inviting environment, as a descendant of James Taylor White discovered.
I moved down here in 1969. It's a lot different than the ranch I came from over in East Texas. The brush country down here it's a lot drier, and the water is really critical, and the grass is real critical. In the brush, I don't get to see many cattle like you would if it would be open country. Over in East Texas, you can see the cattle out there in the pasture, a half a mile away, and just ride over to them and gather them and take them where you need to go. But out here, sometimes you work all day long, and your horse will never see a cow until they get to the pen.
Cattle ranching in this land of mesquite thickets and thorns began in 1749. Hundreds of Spanish land grants were given to criollos. These people of mixed Spanish and Indian blood from Mexico established the first communities. They brought with them their Spanish colonial ranching traditions, and this provided the foundation for the Texas cowboy culture. It's still alive today in the gear, clothing, and the way the Texas cowboy works cattle, and they still speak and understand the mother tongue.
In this area, the Spanish influence is really high. Most everybody's ranches and the windmills and the water holes and the cattle pens have a Spanish name. Just about everybody down here talks a little Spanish, and some ranches talk all Spanish. They'll give you instructions in Spanish. They know that everybody can understand what's going on.
Some of the old-timers recall the early days around Hebronville.
Everybody talked Spanish. Even the cook, he couldn't talk a word of English. Had to eat, you had to speak Spanish. Everybody learned Spanish. Some of those boys didn't like for that cook to boss them around. They told the old boss they didn't like that cook. Mr. Martin, Johnny's daddy, said, load everybody in the pickup that don't like to work for him and take them to town. So that was the end of the strike.
Hebronville at one time was the largest shipping point for cattle in the United States. There were lots of herds that were brought up here from the south that were going to be fed. Kansas, Oklahoma, we load them on those freight cars and take all night. That was early 50s, they were still using trains.
Back in those railroad days, there was a lot of cheap labor.
Here in Hebronville, they get a shipping pen. The cowboys used to get a tequila bottle and drink.
They paid young kids to do their job of loading cattle.
14, 15-year-old kids. Train comes about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we load them up. We just poke them with a stick, and they just give it 10, 15 cents. Because the old one just get drunk.
Like today, I check the wells. I have to check a lot of wells. Something is wrong all the time with the water. They just left about 4 or 5 windmill, the rest of power well.
Cattle are a little more wilder. They don't get to see the cowboys very much, and a lot of them know that they can get away. Sometimes we'll have some really bad cattle. To get them, you have to wait for them to come out into an opening. Big cow, never been worked before and has sharp horns. They can back in the brush, get in a position where they can come out and catch your horse, kind of like a roping horse coming out of a roping box. And there's danger of getting hooked. You have to wait on them to get out in an open spot where you can get behind them to make a run at them.
In the corner, and Bull busted the gate down. Run right through it. Him and all the other ones got out. We were running down the road. I roped one. Cade got him tied. Another one came out. The Julio and Lane were chasing, and Julio rope. We got 2 of them caught.
I think there's still 3 in here. We're gonna go
see if we can find it.
Before they head out, Buck needs to get a thorn out. He had a run-in with a prickly pear cactus.
We were riding through the brush, had a prickly pear bush that was higher than the horse's head, so he wasn't worried about it, but I was, and I got into it and got a few thorns in my arm.
He's got blood on his face. I think there's one more.
Tassajia probably is the worst brush. It's a fern-looking bush and has stickers on it, and when they stick in you, it breaks off. You almost have to have a pair of pliers to pull them out.
Now that they've roped 2 wild ones, they have to get them in the trailer.
The big black bull we had in the trap busted that gate open. Chris and Cade followed him out. He beat us to the gate and come out and made a big circle, and we just followed him around. He popped out up here and I caught him here. It wasn't too bad. He was small. He didn't jerk a whole lot, so it wasn't too bad.
We take a rope that we call a pial, which is a tie rope in Spanish. A Mexican rope something by the hind legs, that's a pial, but the way we use a pial, we have a special way to tie them that's easier on the animal. It doesn't cut the circulation off, then it's easy to untie to let them loose.
The boys ride out to get the second one.
We tied one front leg and one back leg. That way they could still move around. It wouldn't just lay there.
We usually tie ropes off. To me, it's better in this brush if you get around a tree. An animal has a longer end of the rope than you do. It could be really a bad situation. After you rope something and you throw them to go tie them, you want your rope tied off because the horse keeps the rope tight while you're tying your animal while they're on the ground. A pial, you'll just loop it around the left front leg, pull the right hind leg up, tie it off where they'll have enough room between their legs that they can stand up, but they can't run. Shut the gate on him. To the ranch house and eat dinner, and then we're going to take the bull and the heifer over to the auction sale at Pearsall.
Today, Buck will use a helicopter to gather cattle.
Down in this area, we use helicopters. I've been in the helicopter business since 1984. One helicopter can work about 1,000 acres in an hour. We move them up, put them in the traps. We don't like to have any horses on the ground while we're working because the cattle can see the horses and they think they can escape, and they won't pay any attention to helicopters. They'll run past the horses and go back in the brush again. We get to a pen, let the cowboys horseback take them from there. When we're working our cattle, we move them from left to right and keep the cattle going. We'll try to keep the helicopter about 40 foot off the ground. We see something that's not moving in the brush, we can stop, turn back, and get down on them and get them started, and then we'll move on down to the next bunch of cattle and stop and get them started and then move to the next bunch. And sometimes you have to really get right down on top of that brush to blow it down where you can see in it. The oak brush is the hardest to work because it's like looking down on a stalk of broccoli. Your limbs don't move and you have to sit there and blow air down in the brush there to make them move out of there. But the mesquite, you can blow it down and you can look down in it and see the cattle a lot easier. Horseback, you can only see one little spot where you are horseback, but in the helicopter you have an overall view of the whole thing. Sometimes the bulls are not too cooperative. You have to really work on them for a while. The cows, after you work them once or twice, they know where to go. Those bulls, they're going to try to hide. They're hard to handle sometimes. And sometimes it's better to leave them and not waste the helicopter time. We generally leave the bulls out. After you work them 2 or 3 times, they know if they just sit under a bush long enough, you're going to leave them. So they'll just go to a bush and stand there until you go off. If we need them, we'll go horseback and push them out. There's one bull that we left behind back there. He wouldn't travel. And one cow with a baby calf, we left her. 5 greats ago, grandfather, James Taylor White, came over from Louisiana, and my grandmother was Lily Mae White. She married to Hamilton. Family has been in Texas for a long period of time. My son is the 4th, I'm the 3rd. My grandson is the 5th. I have 2 sons. They both help me with the ranching business, but they work in the oil field, and so I usually have to do all of the day-to-day stuff with the cowboys, but when we're working cattle, they'll stop what they're doing and come help me.
Farming all the cows, we're cutting the calves loose. We'll turn the cows out, and then we'll turn around and vaccinate the calves and then put the calves back with the mama cows.
My second son, his son is a junior now. They'll be having their own line.
Blackleg, and then worming them.
Blackleg is a disease that calves get, and they get it from the ground. Most everybody vaccinates for that.
28 calves, 63 cows, and 3 bulls.
It takes a lot of time to quit what you're doing and go into town and get something to eat. A lot of times I'll do the cooking. I do it with the Dutch oven, cook up bread, cook a roast. Sometimes we cook guisada, which is a Mexican meal. Steak, potatoes, and corn. Iced tea and cornbread, and have a pineapple upside down cake. I like pineapple upside down cake. That's my favorite.
You can't complain out here. It's amazing. You can't beat it.
Try to feed everybody pretty good when they come out here. When we cook, we don't have much trouble getting cowboys. Usually they like to come out and get a meal when they're working cattle.
If you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
You definitely don't eat if you don't work, that's for sure.
We have our leather room, we have a bench, got a sewing machine. We do all of our own repairs and leather work.
Extending this out, I really need to try them on.
You got a marker? Put them on and I'll mark them for you.
And how long have you had those?
Since I was about 15, 35 now.
Well, 20 years, that's pretty good.
The boys all know how to make spurt leathers and saddle repairs and leggings and toe fenders. They patch their own equipment up to keep everything in good condition.
Doing trick riding, that's what I'm call it. No, we were helping them rope a cow, and my legs got caught on a saddle horn, and I went round and round, hit my head on the truck. Twice? I guess I hit twice, but yeah. I had these for about 10 years. You get them broke, they fit you perfect. I just repair them till I can't repair them no more.
My grandpa, he makes halters, rope halters, and he can make hackamores and tie downs.
He teaches now though.
Yeah, he knows a lot about roping and breaking horses.
I'm making the straps for the D-rings. Whenever he snaps around his leg, it'll fit him right.
What happened?
When we're pushing calves in the chute, you got guacamole on. Push just to keep them all bunched up so they could vaccinate and worm, and one of them had an accident all over my side.
Alright, you got a pocket for
guacamole.
I like to have my pants legs inside my boots. Daddy always did it that way. It seems like brush doesn't get down in your boots quite as bad if you've got high top boots and have your leggings on.
I like these tall boots because the leggings I have buckled just to here, and running through the brush, a lot of times your leggings flip up in the brush. If you got low top boots on, you get thorns that hit you right up here. And when my leggings flip up, I got these tall boots on and they protect your shin and all that from all the brush.
The replica of Sims, which was a famous guy that made spurs.
These are Sims. These are Sims on mine. These are originals. Maybe $2,000. Yeah, $2,000 probably. And the older ones bring more. Since I was 12, 13. My dad bought them for us at the same time. We got them for Christmas, wasn't it?
Yep. We always wear the toe fenders, and then we wear leggings. I like to wear gloves. And sometimes we wear brush jackets, keep the brush off of you. Summertime it's too hot.
Oh, that'll work. It'll probably stretch some.
It's the beginning of shipping season. The cowboys are gathering the mamas and their calves. The calves will be weaned today.
His Stetson was battered, his shirt was all tattered, the ragged leggings proved he was game. The saddle he sat in was scarred by the brush, and the horse that he rode was the same. A vaquero from the brush country down in South Texas, punching holes in the brush was his trade. Catching mossy horn cattle in the Mesquite and the Choya, toughest cowboy the West ever made. His pony had savvy, top horse in any cabby, he took to the brush like a deer. Running the wild cattle and staying right with them was a job for a mount with no fear. A vaquero from the brush country down in South Texas, punching holes in the brush was his trade. Catching mossy horn cattle in the Mesquite and the Choya, the toughest cowboy the West ever made.
We got these cows right here. We're gonna push them around in this lane, and then we're gonna try to run them right up in the trailer. And we're gonna take them down there with the mother cows and separate the calves, the shippers. The little ones, we'll just turn them back loose for their mamas. Got a whip, little short, probably 3-footer, and it has a little nylon piece tied on the end of it. It's called a popper. And when you swing it and you pop it, you jerk it, and it makes a little popping noise, kind of like a 22 rat shot going off. Kind of scare them. Hopefully they run in there, not run towards you.
Cowboys are rounding up a couple of young renegade bulls.
These sure help in the brush with the thorns. That's for dang sure. You hit brush hard enough, you stick thorns through them.
I'm still picking thorns off from the last time we worked.
Cowhide, bull hide, I don't know, but it's beef. You don't have time to think about your leggings being too hot.
We usually tie on. It makes it easier, so if you have to rope something, you can just put your slack and knock it down and then spill off and go to it, not to worry about your Horse running off, losing your rope.
Made out an old boot top me and Chris did the other day.
A lot of cowboys here carry a pistol.
It's a whole lot safer. You just never know what kind of bind you might get into out here. I'd rather have it, not need it, not have it.
These vaqueros learned the secrets of handling wild cattle from their grandfather and uncles.
These are all my sons, and I got my grandsons.
I was raised on ranch. I get to work cattle with my brothers and my dad. Anything run off, we had to rope him and drag him back to the herd.
He learned at an early age.
I roped big old Brahma bulls by myself. When you rope one of those and you got a time and you bit your rope and jerk him down, and as soon as he hit the ground, he's up again and coming at you again. Or if you got dogs, a lot of times the dogs come and get on that animal and kind of get his attention from you. Sometimes you get somebody to come and rope his hind feet and stretch him out in time.
The most important thing is to have
a big heart where you can rope anything and don't be scared of it.
These are my nephews, 2 brothers, and my dad, of course. When I used to rodeo, I rode bareback horses. I rode for about 11 years, and I won some and I lost quite a few. I'm still here.
He learned to ride those broncs from his dad.
I guess the first horse we ever broke, I was 12, 13 years old. I never broke one before, so he took us and he guided us through it. I got bucked off once or twice, and he'd tell me, well, you ain't done yet. Get on up there again. Try it one more time. So we go round and round. That horse was probably the worst horse of my life. He bucked me off about 2, 3 times. But we finally got a road.
We were real competitive growing up. We were always trying to see who could rope the biggest animal, the fastest animal, or who could catch him, get him tied the fastest. There was always competition there. I guess you'd walk by and say, well, I roped the biggest one today, but tomorrow I might get the bigger one.
I roped a big heifer out in the thicket. She made a run for him, got in the brush, and he couldn't turn around. That rope got behind him, and he reared up, and she come back underneath him, and I saw the rope going. Luckily, Dad wouldn't let me tie on because I was too young. So I was able to turn my deli loose, and she went under. I chased her down and caught her again. Dad was always good about making sure we were careful about what we were doing.
Ready? Whenever you're ready.
Kids in this family learn roping early. Chris's 4-year-old son is already mastering the art.
Yeah, you got it.
By the time he turned 3, he was swinging a rope, throwing ropes at toys, and that's all he does every day, roping.
I rope myself. I built another loop.
At 2, he was dragging the rope around.
Yep, when I grow up like you, Daddy, right? I'll be roping at the Lions Club, right?
Yeah.
I said I rope chickens with this all the time. No, there's 2 way back over there.
I was probably about 4 or so. Been raised around it. That's all our family ever did. We had every opportunity, had all the horses, helping people work cattle and stuff. So you just kind of had to learn if you wanted to do it.
Daddy.
Ropey. Yeah!
These skills would be put to the test today, catching 2 yearling bulls.
When you run through the brush, it hurts at first, but you get so accustomed to the thorn, your skin gets thicker, I guess. Unless you get them in tender spots, tip of your fingers, under your nails. The horses, they're tough. They take it. They take it like a champ.
I came to the road and I could hear Ethan over there. Where's he at? And he goes, he's in here. So I turned around right at the corner and I was riding back and I could see that brake breaking off. He came out, and when he came out, he bumped my horse right at the shoulder. It was all over and I was backing off right out in front of me. He just came down right there. When I went to pull him, I was trying to get him to the road and he just fell over. So Ethan jumped on him and tied him. And he came in here and he circled right here in them trees. And when I pushed him out, he was just in the right spot at the right time, and he caught him.
Catching mossy horn cattle in the Mesquite and the choice, toughest cowboy never made.
I'll be running and the horse will be jumping pear, and it'll flick a pear leaf up, just flick it clean up and land right here on your seat.
And when you sit
and
down,
then when you sit down, it's whoa! I hate that. And then your buddies are like, yeah, I'll help you, but you better not tell nobody. Here you go, help me out here. So I saw Ethan come riding around. So I said, get ready, I'm gonna push him right to you. And right when I went to go in, they took off. And there they go. So then we went up that hill, and going down the hill, he caught speed. And so I kicked my mare up another gear, and we came right through here. So I had to reach way out there, and I roped him around the neck, pitched my slack, turned around, went the other way, and jerked him over backwards, hit the ground, and I bailed off, run to him, and tied him. He's tied right there, you can see him. Looks like he's got a little longhorn in him. Rodeo, I don't think there's a comparison at all. There's nothing that's gonna hook you in the arena. In the brush, it's a lot harder. Anybody can pick a rope up and start roping in the arena. In the brush, you gotta stay on your horse because you don't want to fall off in all the thorns. In the arena, there ain't no thorns.
San Angelo is pretty near the center of Texas. This was once the homeland for the Humano people. They were skilled buffalo hunters and natural entrepreneurs traveling great distances to trade. Each fall they traveled north to the Pecos Indian Fair to trade hides for horses and cattle stolen from the Spanish in Santa Fe. They would drive their stock east to trade with the Caddo people, and to obtain horses they served as guides for the Spaniards. And the Spaniards established the first Texas mission in their territory. But the Apaches were moving down from Canada and were encroaching on their territory. The Humanos were forced to move south. Other tribes were moving to Texas, but it was the powerful Comanches that were determined to take the territory. These Rocky Mountain Indians acquired horses and migrated to Texas to hunt buffalo. To drive their enemies out, 2,000 Comanches attacked the San Saba mission that had been built for the Apaches. This forced the Spanish to retreat and forced the Apaches to move south. This land soon became known as Comancheria. Comanche raids became legendary, and few ventured through this territory. When Mexico gained independence from Spain, it opened the door for American colonization. Mexico gave out land grants, and wealthy speculators took advantage of it. John Woodbury obtained a grant and became the impresario of Concho country, but Comanche raids kept settlers away, and the land was purchased by John Beale and James Grant. This was unsettled territory. Maps marked the region as wild horse and cattle country. 15 years later, a group of Germans bought the rights and planned to settle. But a year later, gold was discovered and thousands took to the trail, passing through San Angelo to seek their fortunes in California. Soon the Butterfield stage opened a route to take advantage of this westward movement, and Richard Tankersley, the first Anglo rancher, arrived with his wife, 6 children, and 700 head of longhorn cattle. Cowpunchers appeared when Charlie Goodnight and Oliver Loving rounded up 2,000 head of cattle and blazed a trail to Colorado. The Goodnight-Loving Trail was born, and San Angelo became a true cow town. It's still a cow town with saddle makers, boot makers, and plenty of cattle ranchers. These mama cows and calves on the Henry Ranch, just south of San Angelo, are moving to new pastures today. The ranch employs the Stampede Ranch and Lease Management Company to handle the cattle operation. Jerry Gassell works for this company and oversees the ranch operation.
Sometimes you'll have a large group of people that own a ranch, and they might hire a ranch management company to come in and manage them. He guarantees the ranch will operate, and he will have the people to operate it. The owners don't have to worry about anything.
The crew comes together during branding to help each other out.
Several cowboys that work for the ranch, but they're different ranches throughout the year, and then spring, fall, we all get together and work our calves. We brand them, vaccinate them, cut the bull calves.
My mom is from Argentina and my dad is from Chile. They both grew up on farms or ranches down there, and I've just come out to Texas with Jerry.
It's nice to have somebody who can ride, keep up with you out in the pasture. If I'm on a younger horse, that I'll dally just to keep him from getting in a wreck, but for the most part I tie on. If I'm going to rope something, my horse ought to be able to be ready for it. I'm going to use an Argentine snaffle with a twisted wire. He gets a little heavy. He's kind of progressed from a snaffle bit. These are handy little bridles to put on him when you want to start moving up in a bridle. I actually prefer that twisted wire mouthpiece to a lot of mouthpieces. This colt I'm riding, he really likes this bridle. Rides really nicely in it. I know I got a lot of choices, but this is the one that he'll work in, and I might switch him tomorrow to something like that. I'm pretty proud of my bridle. When I was a kid and I would see a lot of guys' tack rooms like this, I always wanted to have my own. There's some of the leggings that I've built. This pair I built for myself. Cecilia and I built this pair together. I actually just built a pair for Obi that's going to help us today. He said he didn't want to get them muddy.
He did a good job on them. I was almost scared to put them on. Want to hang them in the house.
That's rattlesnake. Justine stretched out on there herself. I liked it.
No, I didn't kill it. I just skinned it.
She's out there skinning, and all these boys with us like freaked out. Girl over there skinning her rattlesnake.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see that every day.
I was here for 2 years before I found a rattlesnake to skin to put on there. And I cut a foot off of each side because it was so big when I stretched him.
Rattlers are so common here that the town of Sweetwater has an annual rattlesnake roundup. Cowboys earn some extra bucks gathering them.
Got 13 snakes, and that's it.
What'd they bring?
$10 a pound.
$10 a pound.
It was about 25 pounds of them. They've got a guy that'll get in there with them and lay in a sleeping bag with them. I don't care nothing about all that, you know. I'm not that brave. I'm walking on pins and needles when I'm looking for them anyway.
You sure you don't want that pair of leggings?
I don't want to look like a cross-dresser.
I got some rubber for you.
And some rubber for my horn.
Rubber and a short rope with a horn knot.
I'm from Utah, and I grew up more of a buckaroo influence. And they might as well have a civil war for the punchers versus the buckaroos. I think the main thing is buckaroos more of a timing thing, when to push, when to hold, with your horses, your cows, everything. And punchers aren't necessarily like that, but they've adapted because they don't really have time to be like that. Things are a little bit more wild here.
Driving cattle today is not like it was on the Goodnight Loving Trail, but those little dogies can keep a cowboy busy.
As I was walking one morning for pleasure, I spied a cowpuncher come a-loping along. His hat was throwed back and his spurs was a-jingling. As he approached, he was singing the same. Whoopie-tie-I-O, get along, little doggies, your misfortune and none of my own. Whoopie-tie-I-O, get along, you little doggies, for you know that Wyoming will be your new home. Well, your ma was born way down in Texas, where the Jimson weed and the sandburrs grow. We'll fill you up on prepare and show you until you're ready for Idaho. Whoopie-tie-I-O, get along, little doggies, your misfortune and none of my own. Whoopie-tie-I-O, get along, you little doggies, for you know Wyoming will be your new home.
And we just prowl through our cattle. We look for something that's not right. There's a cow that's sick, fence that needs to be patched. We'll go out, we'll drift them. We might move them from one part of the pasture to another part. You almost train these cows to where when it comes time to gather them, they'll pick their calves up and they're ready to do something.
War bridle. It's the Indian bridle, what the Indians rode. You don't ever see it. Not many guys really ride it. This summer, Justine and I were down by Kent and Van Horn Day working for a ranch called Barachos. A friend of mine that runs it gave that to me. It's kind of like having a bridle horse. Some horses don't ride in this deal. It's just a loop, 4-plat with kind of like what we'd call a horn knot.
A half-breed with a Santa Barbara cheek piece between a curb and a spade bit.
Everybody knew the pasture we were gathering, and everybody met on the back side of the cattle, and we started moving them down and put them in the hold up just to get a quick look, make sure we have everything. And these cattle naturally knew where they were supposed to go.
My friend gave it to me. Jeff Wolf, he's a bronze artist and he sculpted that and made it into a bell. When you're riding, you can hear someone. If you can't see them, but you can still hear their bell so you know where your next man is at.
I think it's 30 feet. That's what I like to use. I like to tie on.
I started colts, you know, from ground up, and then I was showed some cutting horses for a while. Kind of stay busy with this now. So just starting colts for the ranch is about the only thing to do now.
I work for an Angus ranch. We've got right at 30,000 acres, and it's a registered deal.
I work here on the ranch, and I've been working here about a year now, and just cowboy.
It's early morning and the cowboys are getting ready to bring the cattle in for branding.
Cowboys wear tall top boots, and if we're gonna get a pair made, they're gonna be the prettiest things you ever seen. You might as well tuck your pants in them. I tuck my pants in because it feels better when I ride a horse. Cattle here are a little more wild, and we have a lot of brush country. You don't always have time to get a dally. I think it has a lot to do with you have to get them caught, and you can use a shorter rope, keep better control of your cattle. Pretty much assures you that you're gonna catch whatever you're going after. You're not gonna drop your rope.
I have a SRS, a ranch roper cowboy saddle. They're made in Pilot Point, Texas.
It's a ranch cutter, just a flat seat ranch cutter. That's a cotton wrap, just got a little more grip to it. It's one of the buckaroo deals. Some guys in California come up with that, I believe. This is just the cotton. Justine's dad made this bow saw. I took it from her.
This is my new saddle. It's a rope retrieve of some sort, but I love it. It's really comfortable, and I feel like I can move my legs. I really like it. And I like the buck stitching.
The Wade the tree. I bought it because of the guy that made all the hardware on it. Tommy Sprayberry, he's probably my favorite bit and spur maker. He doesn't make anything anymore and kind of hard to find. Still get his bits every once in a while. This saddle's comfortable. If it wasn't comfortable, I wouldn't ride it. They're just rawhide taps. They're like bulldog taps. They're light, and that's what's nice about them is they're not so heavy, bulky like a lot of leather taps are. We do everything at a high rate of speed. When it comes to having to catch cows or do a lot of things, we don't have a lot of time to spend getting our ropes down. We use the rubber here is our rope sling. You can get your rope put on there, and then you can just pull that rubber right over the horn. And it holds your rope pretty tight and pretty close to you. And if you gotta get your rope down, you can get it down pretty quick. Just pulling that rubber off and putting your horn knot over your horn, you're ready to go. As a hobby, I make shaps. I don't have television, and if I'm not doing other things, we're building leggings. It's a lot of fun to build them. Sometimes it's a lot of work.
I've made a couple of pairs for myself. Jerry taught me.
We've always got guys waiting to buy even the used pairs. If we get tired of wearing one pair, we sell one pair, buy some more leather.
Grass is stirred deep across the meadows. The cattle wintered fine again this year. This springtime riding lifts the cowboy spirits. The master's touch is everywhere out here. The flowers on the hillside are a-blooming, and winter's cold is just a memory. And it's got this cowboy dreaming of his sweetheart and our last kiss 'neath the live oak tree. So strike a lope and let's hit the trail, old partner. We'll fly like the wind while there's still light, across the miles that we're apart, to the one who owns my heart. Looks like we're gonna make it home tonight.
Before the calves are branded, they are separated from their mamas.
And what we had to do was peel all the cows off these calves so we could have all the calves together to brand them. Cows and calves pushed up in the back of one pen. And Obie, Chris, and Pecos go into there. Then you had Cecilia kind of behind them, myself near the gate, and then Justine in the gate. And then if everything worked out, Justine would move out of the gate, come in behind, push them out. You know, everybody has a job to do. It's just a matter of reading your help, reading your cows. Once we sort calves, we like to leave a few of the cows in with the calves. Good to have a few mama cows in there.
Well, I live out west where life is best and the creatures still run wild. Where Stetson hats, a shotgun shafts, and spurs are still in style. I don't earn much pay, but that's okay, 'cause I'm happy with who I am. I'm a 2-6-gun shooter, yodeling cowhand.
For the branding pin, you see some guys that want to dally, some guys that want to tie it on.
What I do is fold it in half where it makes the loop go around and under and back over, and it's tied on. You can shorten your rope up. They're not out on end of 30 foot. It's just a little easier to hold them.
Obie, he's used to dallying. He does a lot of arena roping.
Dally roping comes from the Spanish term dar la vuelta. It means to take a turn around the saddle.
Some say that I'm a throwback to the days of long ago, with my slick fork saddle, longhorn cattle, and a 60-foot lasso. Well, I've been known to roll my own. I drink my coffee from a can. I'm a rootin' 2-6-gun shooter, Henry yodeling cowhand.
Bloody Riley's were well known in San Angelo. This is where the three brothers established their boot shop.
This company started in 1922 in a little town called Brady, later moved to San Angelo, and it is still family owned today. They opened this store in Fort Worth 1941. This was the stockyards. They still had the packing houses, the slaughterhouses, the rendering plants. It had a smell all of its own back then. There was a lot of cattle went in and out of these yards. They sold a lot of boots back then. People like handmade boots, and you're going to be on your feet all day, you want something comfortable. This is an oil tan boot, oil tan top and bottom. This is a very tough boot. It'll last. For a working cowboy, it's a way of getting a boot without spending a ton of money. When you get into a guy that's out there in the brush and all of that, he wants his pant legs tucked in and wants them up to his knees. This is a very tough boot because it's elephant. This type of top, you're looking at putting a whole lot more dollars into them, but it makes a beautiful boot. This man's got his brand in the front of it. It's all hand tooled. This is an oak pattern. It's got an oak leaf and little acorns in it. This boot is still in good shape. It just got new soles put on it. If you take care of them, there's no telling how many sets of soles you can put on these boots. Number one book start in 1941, and it goes through the late 50s. The footprint, measurements, the boots that they've ordered, any kind of problems they've had. It's a document that gives us all the information about that customer. And then it went from there all the way to number 71, is which we're at today.
This is a saddle that we built. It's called an A-fork, and it has the geometric type tool pattern on it. And then as an add-on to the collector series, we built a pair of boots that would have the same type tool pattern in the top. It just makes a wonderful collection. This unit here sells as a saddle and a pair of boots in the $15,000 range.
A man's hat says a lot about him. These custom hats made by Spradley can even stand up to the rain.
This is what we call the Silver Select. This is out of the center of the belly, and it's the sterling beaver. It is the finest hair you can get a hold of. But here's the thing I like about it. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff with this hat, and it'll go right back. And even in the rain, it'll do that. This is called Silver Select. This is called the Beaver Deluxe. This is called the Beaver 50. And these run $400. These are $800. These are $2,000. This one and the other 100% take us a couple of weeks to make. 3 weeks at least, a good month on this one. Customer comes in, you're going to measure him and you're going to size him. This is called the conformators, invented by Allie Millard. There's a date stamped in the leather part under here, 1850. It goes down on the head. We've got this piece of paper up here. You set it there and let the customer adjust it for you. And then you take it off pretty easily. There's your cutout. And I line it up with that same hole. And back here I line it up with that one. You bring these in, these fingers or slides, whatever you want to call them, and make them butt up against that paper. There you go. You start tightening these up. I take a tape measure, and this is where I measure it. Shows that he is measuring 23 3/4 inches. That's pretty close to 7 5/8. Take a pencil and just outline it on my ticket. We make notes on how we build it, blocks we use, the boards we use, how we size them.
The felt, this is how it comes to us. This is a hat body. It's just been felted and it's been rough blocked. We're going to be blocking this over this to a 5.5 inch tall crown. This is just a cord that we put on. It holds the hat in place when we start crown ironing it. We'll start pulling it down over this block so that we're actually pulling from up top and pulling the whole hat down over the block. Now just get it warm again. I'm just going to pull this cord real snug and we'll stick it on the crown iron. It's setting the shape of the hat to the size of the block that we put it on. Today I'm going to what we call pounce the crown, and that's what gives it that smooth finish. I'm going to sand it.
I'm going to put it in here upside down. Now these boards are just like the blocks. This is a screw band. What it does is it's going to go in there and hold this, and I'm lining it up. You cover it. All I'm doing is getting this really wet. This is a brim iron. What you're seeing is how Jim Spradley makes a hat. That flange bag has approximately 70 pounds of sand in it. It's hot. What you're doing in every heated step is you're training that felt. Now I'm training that felt to be flat.
We put a liner in there. The liner just dresses the inside of the hat. We stitch these liners in there. Lots of other liners are glued in. We don't use any glue. And the next thing we do is call them and tell them the hat's ready.
In the trail days, a cowboy's saddle was his most prized possession.
You've heard this old song, a $10 horse and a $40 saddle. They might move from ranch to ranch and change horse, but if a cowboy lost his saddle, he couldn't do any more work. You got to go back 400 years to the Spanish War saddle. That's where the evolution came from. Mexicans, as they learned to work cattle, they found that they needed a durable saddle, and so the saddle evolved into what they call the vaquero saddle today. It was the beginning of the whole western stock saddle. There was Missouri, Texas, and Mexico and California were the four areas where saddles were starting to really develop.
It started with the Santa Fe Trail.
About that time, the explorers and the fur trade was starting to get started, and they found that the English flat saddles just didn't give them what they needed. A good, strong, durable saddle. The Mexican saddles, they were a wood tree and they were covered with rawhide. The wood gives the tree a little flexibility where the rawhide gives it the strength.
These vaquero saddles soon became an important trade item.
This saddle here was coming out of Missouri based on what they had seen in the Mexican saddle, and still a little romantic flair for the flat saddles. The early ones were rigged just a little different. This is the centerfire, which was more what the flat saddles were designed as.
When the settlers came into Texas,
they brought what they had with them. They started looking towards the Mexican saddle, started giving them something that they could work their cattle off of in the brush country. In 1835, Adolphus Hope started a saddle shop. He got the feel for the Mexican saddle. His saddles were just exactly what the cowboy needed. This is a Hope saddle. These Texas saddles, they were the true forerunner of the Western stock saddle today. The differences between the Missouri saddle and this Hope saddle was that they started putting bigger skirts on them, which protected the horse, also protected the rider. The stirrup leathers got a little bigger. This is what we call a Sam Stagg rig. This Hope just got a double rig on it. Adolph, working with the cattlemen there, they were learning to rope from the Mexicans because the brush, they had shorter ropes and they tied hard and fast. When the cow hit the end of that, saddle wanted to go like this. It didn't take them long to figure out if they put the double rig on and tighten both cinches, then that saddle would set. You can pick out a Texas saddle. It was a half seat and it was double rigged and it had big square skirts on it. In 1865 is when they started moving the cattle up. You notice this one's fully covered, but it's still a half seat. It's still double rigged. The fenders are still exposed. By the 1870s, you had a confluence of all kinds of makers. Got California influences, Colorado. This is where they really started coming together. This is what we call the Plains saddle or the Cheyenne saddle. It is the combination of all those saddles we've talked about. It was the end of the half-seat evolution. There were several companies like Frank Mina. The 1880s was the heyday of the cowboy stock saddle.
In Texas, the further west you go, the fewer people you see. Some of the most famous ranches are located here in this sparsely populated country. The only store is the 4-6 Supply House.
It originated as the commissary for the employees, and it's just turned into a good old-fashioned general store. Have everything from bread to bridles to milk and eggs to tires and hardware.
4-6 is just down the road. This is home to Boots O'Neill. He's cowboyed here for the last 21 years.
My name is Billy M. O'Neill, and my father was called Boots. The bus driver says, "Get on here, little Boots." I'd never been called Boots, and it just stuck. We've got one regular chuck wagon and have up until the last 2 or 3 years we used it a lot. When we were with the wagon, you were just restricted to what you could ride out to and get back. You got bat wings and shotguns and chinks. These are shotguns. The old timers in this country really frowned on chinks. Boy or two from Nevada come in this country in the 50s. First ones I ever seen. And I remember the old men that were my age now then, they thought they just didn't have enough leather to finish them. Them boys buckle them on the inside, but a man come here with them buckled on the inside, they wouldn't even hire him. We used to think that was a joke. We think that on the inside they would rub your foot.
Boots, like most cowboys in these parts, ties on.
I fix these like this, and most of the boys nowadays, they think that's dangerous, but when you get it on there, well, you've got it, see? You're running wide open in rough country on a horse. You coil that rope up, you got to do it like this. You got to tie that around and then keep watching that cow and then drop that around there and put that back through there. And this would be them two prongs sticking out that was on that. But you'd have a fast loop built there and you could catch her again, you see. There's two bit makers in this country that are the best, and that was Clapper and Bars. Bars is dead now, and I've got bits that he made that he charged me $11, $12 for. It's worth $3,000 or $4,000. Now these are Clappers, and Clapper's still alive. They cost $70 in the 70s, and a boy told me the other day he'd give $1,800 for them.
Boots has a favorite saddle maker.
He's Bob Mars. He's an Amarillo. He's the premier saddle maker in this country. Saddle that's called a cowboy. Buster Welch, the tree is. I had 4 Clapper rings. See, they cost $1,000 by themselves. And then I've got a Bars cinch rings, which are $500 a piece.
Boots is semi-retired.
We won't go in these rooms where these boys are staying because they're not sanitary. This is what we call the BS room, and we meet here the morning and everybody finds out what's going to take place that day. This one here is just straight Hereford. They had horns like that on them steers. I've roped a lot of them. This horse was supposed to be real bad, and they asked me if I'd ride him. Drug a bunch of calves on him that evening, and there's an artist there. He titled it Two Bearcats. The horse was supposed to be bad, and then I was riding him. If you had any idea how much time I spend right here in these chairs. A lot of times I sit here 2 or 3 hours Sunday morning, not a single solitary soul come through here. I don't have nowhere to go. It's 100 miles to a good town.
It's not Sunday. Boots has to get back to work. Next door, it's branding season on the Tongue River Ranch. For the next few weeks, the cowboys will work cattle in Texas, New Mexico, and then Wyoming.
I'm kin to the roving wind that brings the norther in. Along that dusty trail I'll take my stand.
Tom Morehouse runs this cattle operation, and he prefers to do things the old way.
A steer's a big and bold, and the nights are often cold. But then that's sort of what you used to when you roll that rope, brand that calf, dream of a girl in a photograph. I got no home, I got no wife, I'll be a doggone cowboy all of my life. I'm up at the crack of dawn, I throw the bacon on. It seems as though my work is never through. When I get done at night, the stars are big and bright. But then that's sort of what you used to when you throw that rope, brand that calf, dream of a girl in a photograph. I got no home, I got no wife, I'll be a doggone cowboy all of my life.
When we get them thrown together, if you let them sit there a while, the calves will mammy up with the cows and they'll be easier to move. We might have a stray that we want to cut out. We don't want to move the herd until everybody's there and all the cattle are there.
Pulled pork sandwiches and some French-style beans, potato salad, and brownies.
It's good.
These boys work fast, eat fast, and get ready for the afternoon branding.
Well, that stands for Jared Morris and Millard Morris. Jared and Millard, J.M.
I work for the 4-6s. I'm over here neighboring with Tongue River. We do a lot of neighboring.
Cody has his own way of tying on.
1 loop, 2 loops, take my tail, ride it back through there. And you just place that over your side, pull it tight.
If you have an emergency, how do you get it off?
Pocket knife. The thing about West Texas cowboys, you find a lot of guys who tie hard and fast.
That branding barrel that we cut a hole in and to put the irons in, build a fire in the bottom of it, my dad did that years ago.
Watch some of those calves today. A lot of them are kicking and stuff. And if you really lay it in there hard and slap those calves, you know, and then they're kicking your loop off, you got to rebuild and set another trap. Quentin's over there, he's dallying.
In this part of Texas, tying on is customary. I was grown before I saw the first person dally. And since dally team roping, more people dally. And people got to dallying in the branding pen, and although I'm sort of an old school, tie on hard and fast type person, dallying in the branding pen is sure all right. You got men out there afoot. If something goes wrong, you can rip those dallies off your saddle horn. On a young horse, it's probably wise to dally because first time or two he pulls something out there, if he gets scared and goes to bucking or something, you can let your rope go.
I'll be a doggone cowboy all of my life. Yes, I will.
A young horse is not accustomed to a lot of stuff that you do on him. A horse is going to be pretty nervous about spraying and the sound of the spray until you get him used to it.
How many miles do you think your horses went today?
I don't know how many.
Somewhere between 101. Quentin's wagon boss, he'll tell you.
About 15. Thank you.
I know, I think I zigzagged about 10.
I didn't learn all I know from my dad, but I learned a bunch of it from him. He handled cattle easy, did it right, and he didn't chouse them, and he didn't rope them unless it was necessary. Didn't trot cattle, he let them walk. He always said to pay attention, and that means whether you're starting a colt or whether you're working a herd or whether you're making a drive. If you get somebody that's really paying attention, that'll outweigh a lot of other things that cowboys are supposed to do.
It's 4:30 a.m. and moving day.
Well, we're just tearing the camp down, fixing to move to another trout and set of pens and start to work there branding calves. And if we move in the morning, we move real early before daylight, work the pasture before dinner, and that's our intention this morning. Got to keep rolling, got to crew them in, got to keep going.
We'll probably be gone in 30 minutes or so.
We ride 2 horses a day. Sometimes it's just out in the middle of nowhere and you throw ropes to each of the men and make a round pen. The horse catcher is designated by the wagon boss, or is the wagon boss. The way you do it, you standing around there and you call out the horse that you want to ride. Fella catching the horses has to know which horse that is. When they lead you one out, you're supposed to stand there and help hold the horse. You don't just turn and go saddle your horse. You wait till everybody's horse is called.
While the boys gather cattle, Charlie prepares the noon meal.
These Dutch ovens, some of them are fairly new. I got some ovens that are probably 100 years old. These Lodge brands are made in America. They're pretty good ovens. The old ones like the Griswold, some of those, they cook a lot better. The Dutch people kind of introduced them to the United States, which a lot of people don't know that Paul Revere, he made cast iron pots. They don't make them like this anymore. This loop here, it's probably 100 years old. I've got a few 12-inch ovens at home. They're worth too much money to carry around. A Griswold 20-inch skillet like this worth $1,000. They've got 3 legs on it. You'll set that on top of the coals. You put coals on top of this lid. Make cobblers, cakes, brownies. Arbuckle's coffee was most of the wagons used, back during the cattle drive days. They put a peppermint stick in the bags of coffee. If you had a hood, what they call your helper, if he would grind the coffee, the cook would give him the peppermint stick. Charles Goodnight, he came up with putting a chuck box on a regular freight wagon, keeping all your supplies in it. This is the chuck box, is where you prepare your meals. Lots of canned tomatoes, and I've got green beans when people get tired of pinto beans. Fresh water tank. We try to keep water here that's drinkable. In this country, you got jip water, which is not very good to drink.
The boys are back with cattle and getting ready to brand. Cowboys here seem to lean toward black hats.
Usually, the younger guys all wear black hats. You might say the cowboys wear black hats and the cowmen wear silver bellies. And this doesn't hold true every time. The branding pen, if you're tied on, you don't want a long rope because number one, it's harder on your horse, and number two, you've got more rope to coil up every time. We tie the rope off on the saddle horn, and then that extra slack, we run it under our leg and around behind the saddle and tie it with a saddle string.
Cowboy's work is never done, works hard from sun to sun. The rancher is the man that feeds us all. Now people jump and shout, they say we want the rancher out. The rancher is the man that feeds them all.
We're just flanking them. One guy grabs the rope, one guy grabs the tail.
Who has the most difficult job?
Flankers. So they got to deal with the animal. 300 to 400 pounds.
The rancher is the man. The rancher is the man. He lives on credit until the fall. Then they take him by the hand and they lead him off his land. The rancher is the man that feeds us all. Then Uncle Sam's the man that gets it all.
Most guys tuck their jeans in their boots, but there are a few exceptions.
How come you don't tuck your jeans in your boots?
I'm not punky enough. How many acres we gathered this morning? 2,000. Usually we gather twice as much. Today's a short day, but we had to move camp, so that made a difference.
If you're working a real brushy pasture, you have to do a lot of moving back and forth, zigging and zagging through the brush. You have to go by sounds a lot, and sometimes the best thing is slip through the brush real quiet. The brush country is the hardest to work. Old smart cow get in the thicket and just stand there real still. We knew a cow that was right close, and we knew that she was trying to get away. We prowled and prowled. Sure enough, somebody rode by a plum thicket. And that cow and calf were right out in the middle of that plum thicket, and you couldn't see the cow unless you rode right up to the thicket, look in it.
Now the government wants his land, but they don't seem to understand that the rancher is the man that feeds us all. 'Cause if the rancher took a rest, they'd all be starving half to death. The rancher is the man that feeds them all. Then Uncle Sam's the man that gets it all. Now in the morning after breakfast, just about daylight, you throw your saddle on your horse and pull your cinch tight. Now your bronco may jump crooked, or he may jump high. We've all got to ride 'em, boys, root hog or die.
There's so many unwritten rules, like where this fire is here and the chuck box is right there. It's against the rules to walk in between the fire and the chuck box. You never sit on someone else's bedroll unless you ask them first. At a meal, I'll tell the wagon boss that it's ready, and he'll tell the guys it's ready, and they'll usually let him go in first. They'll give you a shapping if you wear your leggings on the fly. Shapping is a way that cowboys enforce rules. If you get lost on the drive or you do something wrong, at the end of the day, somebody will remember it. They'll take you down. You always have to have the fringe pointed towards their feet. If you hit them and that fringe goes up above their belt, well, then the man running the leggings, he gets a shapping also.
Now sometimes dreadful stormy, sometimes pretty clear. You might work a month, or you might work a year. But you can make a winning if you come alive and try. For the whole world over, boys, it's root hog or die.
Boots O'Neill from the 4.6s is helping out.
We trade work with the 4.6s and the pitchforks. And that means that when we're working, they'll send 2 or 3 men over to help us. And then when they're working, we'll send a couple of 3 men over to help them. It saves you having to hire extra help, and they're usually better help and probably know the country.
I've chased a lot of ropes for people in Daly. Well, everybody here ties on, and when we're roping in the corral, branding, or doing anything while we tie on.
Cut a little bit.
We hire younger people because we have a lot of young horses to ride. We don't hire anybody old enough that they don't want to ride young horses because we raise a lot of horses and we have to get them ridden. It's not one person's job to ride the young horses, it's everybody's job.
You have to have muscles and wrestling skills to get some of these big calves down.
What we like to call kung fu. It's actually Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
It takes about 6 or 7 men for a branding crew, and that's with 1 dragger, 2 sets of flankers, which that's 4 men, that makes 5 with the dragger. Man run the iron, the man run the knife is 7. One of them can back snake, but you sort of need another man. So you can have a 7 or 8 man crew with 1 dragger.
On the double circle range where the grass grows green, the cattle get wild and the broncos get mean. The calves get bigger as the day goes by. You gotta keep rimming, boys, or root hog will die. If you ride 'em out of horses, you gotta keep 'em shod. You can't shoe 'em standing, then you lay 'em on the sod. Now you tack the iron on 'em when you've got a mind to try. You better take to it, boys, or root hog will die.
64 years ago, I went to work punching cows for the JAs, and I've never not had a job. I went to work then 7 days a week, staying at a wagon for $1,120 a year. It was a lot different then.
Enchiladas. They look awful good, too. Enchiladas and rice, beans. With Charlie cooking, it's always good.
The boys are packing up to go to New Mexico.
We were at Tongue River Ranch at Paducah, drove to near Raton, New Mexico, where we had the other wagon set up, fixing to go to using this wagon for 4 days and brand some calves up here.
When you're going to set your camp up, few orders are given because every man knows what to do. The cook handles putting the wood in the stove, but when you move, he needs all the help he can get because he's trying to get something to eat as soon as he can. So you have to get the stovepipe put in, get the fire going.
This is a horse-drawn wagon that the ranch bought several years ago. It's got a chuck box on it and places to put the pots and pans. And we pull it with a team of Belgian horses and move it from one camp to the other. It's very authentic to the original. That boy of mine, Gage, drives it some. Not very many people knows how to drive a team. Charlie, the cook, knows how to drive a team better than anybody.
When you're at the wagon, there are rules and customs. One of them is that you don't walk between the fire and the lid, which we call the deal that you let down on the back of the chuck box. That's the cook's area. You just stay out of his way.
And some sort of bread. I haven't let my mind make cornbread or cinnamon roll.
When those guys are setting up the teepees, there's always a big question as to which way to put the door, because if it's in the winter, needless to say, you wouldn't put your door on the north side of the teepee. If it looks like rain, and the rain usually comes from the west, well then you'd probably put your door on the east side.
We throw these up wherever place we go. It's just a house away from home.
Yeah, I've had it about 7 years. Camped out in it quite a bit.
What happened to your tent here?
Oh, it just got rained on and put up wet too many times.
Cowboys have all the comforts of home.
Lantern and your heater right there, extra propane bottles, garbage sack, clothes, house shoes, comforts of home. The typical bedroll mattress there. That folds down, unbuckle it all the way. That tarp folds down, get in, there's your bed right there. Sheets, mattresses. In the morning, just get up, make your bed.
riding up mesquite-filled canyons before the light of day. We've got to ease in behind 'em part and head 'em off that way. They're a cut straight from the devil's herd, just up from Hell's Rim Rock. And this day you'll earn your wages, trying to gather in his stock. These canyons are rough and rocky, so cowboy, you better ride smart. Your cow horse had better be savvy, sure-footed with a lot of heart. This mossy horn bunch is wild, running free in this broken land. For many a year they've escaped us, today we catch 'em if we can.
Those cows get smart, and you've got to be smarter than the cow, and sometimes that's hard to do. There's days that cattle handle good and days that cattle don't handle good. Some days you can throw a herd together, nothing happens. Some days you throw a herd together and something wants to run off. And a lot of times if you've got maverick cattle in there, they're the ones that'll want to squirt out of there and run off. Cattle that are reasonably gentle, there's usually one or two in the bunch that aren't gentle, or at least they can't stand to be thrown together. And then sometimes if you're handling cattle that are sort of wild, if the men aren't where they should be and not paying attention, you're going to lose some of them. And there'll be more than one run off, and you'll lose part of what you've gathered that morning.
Get them up there by 10 or 10:30 and brand some before dinner.
Been many a top hand shake out his loot and set out on a chase. Many a good horse has paid the price, running in this freedom race. Down rocky draws choked with brush, up and down the steep hills, but they ain't caught the wild ones yet, and maybe they never will. Running the wild bunch up and down these rocky trails, trying to catch the devil's herd that's drifted up from hell. Yes, we're setting on a run today through the early morning chill. No, we ain't caught the wild bunch yet, and just maybe we never will.
We run mostly black cows here. Black's the color nowadays. They're mostly Angus. They grade and yield better at the packing house, and they put on a lot of weight. We try to buy a real good bull. That has a big difference on what your calf crop looks like.
Hot dry wind may blow, you'll see me in the rain and snow, with just an old campfire keep me warm. I'll move the herd along and greet them with a song. But then that's sort of what you used to when you throw that coat around that calf. Dream of a girl in a photograph. I got no home, I got no wife, I'll be a doggone cowboy all of my life. Yes, I will.
At the Trappings of Texas show in Alpine, Texas, you can see some of the finest custom bits and spurs, and you might even see some buckaroo influence.
These are buckaroo-style spurs with firearm-style engraving done in high relief with 24-karat gold line inlay. I had always admired the flash and the style of the buckaroo style gear. They are a bevel style rowel. The shank has got a little sculpture to it. It's just a little more refined than what a Texas style would be. The Texas style would be a heavier style spur with the overlay instead of the inlay. I've always thought of the Texas style spur as maybe a Northern Plains style, pretty much of a heavy work type spur.
This is a Santa Paula cheek. It is sculpted and relief engraved and inlaid 24-karat gold. I've been raised in West Texas. The signal bit thing, we don't know a lot about it. Cowboys like to see different things, so I went to combining a California cheek bit with some West Texas mouthpieces. My consideration is it presents so much more of a canvas for me. You know, you have the mouthpiece you can do things with, not to mention all the cheeks. So a few years ago, There were some guys around riding signal bit type mouthpieces, and now there's more and more each year. This bit is patterned after Adolph Byers. He was a spur maker in the 40s. Byers' pattern number is 575. This is a commonly used bit here in Texas, a typical West Texas cheek mouthpiece. These bits that he made 50 years ago are still being used today. There's not much to wear out on these. They're pretty durable.
I'm Billy Clapper from Pampa, Texas. I make a one-piece spur. I made them out of Ford axle, but you can't find them no more. And I buy 1045. It holds up as good as the old axle. The flowers and in the copper center there, that spur will rust and your mounting will really show up. I have a book and I have 875 different bit patterns.
Bits and spurs have always caused some rivalry between buckaroos and punchers.
You start talking to a Texan about a spur. Well, you got them big old nasty rowels. I don't want to be a horse and have that poking at me. Take your finger and put it in your rib. Now take 4 fingers and put them in your rib. You're aware those 4 fingers are there, but because you've put that same pressure on, it's dispersed. You don't have near as much going on there for pain as even that.
Big difference in the cowpuncher and the buckaroo, the type of spurs they were. This spur, a fellow named Jerry Cates made this spur. It's typical of a Texas spur, a little bit of a gooseneck. Some of them will have a little shaft guard on there, but they're not a very heavy heel band, and you usually don't see a very big rowel, and you'll never see jingle bobs down this country, because occasionally we need to slip up on something down here, and things making all that racket, we're pretty hard to slip up on anything.
Jingle bobs. What possible good could they do? They make noise. Noise makes people look over at you. And when you're gonna look this good, don't you want people looking over at you?
I buckle my spurs on the outside where they belong. Why I do it and why it's a better way, it's sort of like coiling a rope up. Everybody I've ever been around knew how to coil a rope up. But this boy, instead of coiling it up like this, like you're supposed to, he had his hand over it and he would twist that and twist it. And you see that a lot up in the buckaroo country. And so I asked my daddy, I said, why does he coil his rope up like that? And Daddy said, well, he just hadn't learned how to coil one up yet. That's the reason them guys buckle their spurs on that side, just because they hadn't learned the proper side to buckle it yet.
A big contention with them in Texas is me buckling my spurs on the inside. Our spurs are fit to our boots to where they just slip right on, and I could usually go and make a day's work out of that without having anything happen. That spur fits my boot.
It doesn't last long in this country. You got a big conch over or something fancy deal sewed on your leggings or whatever, but it don't take long. The brush is torn it off.
Well, we put our buckles on the outside. Every time you go by a fence, you've got the chance of either bending your buckle up or tying it on to you where you can't get it off.
You can see here on this spur buckle where those leggings have actually worn the nickel finish off, and that's where it stays covered up with them leggings, and they're rubbing on it all the time. They've pretty much protected this part of the spur, and not much use of spending $100 on a big concho there if nobody ever sees it. They can put that fancy concho on there, which has no practical purpose, but it's pretty to look at, I guess.
I like my spur down where I know I've got to come up to greet the horse. I don't want a spur up here where I've got to be aware of it all the time.
These spurs I have on are a little kind of a drop shank, a little more of a California style spur. I really like these riding young horses because that spur's way down there and you've got to put quite a bit of effort into getting that spur up to touch a horse with it.
They'll look at one of our bridles and say, oh my gosh, I wouldn't put that in a horse's mouth. A lot of guys are going to say, I'd way rather have that in my horse's mouth. The whole mechanics of this is as you pull this back, I've got a pressure point right here and a pressure point right there. I've got 2 kind of owies. I want you to see how this thing just naturally sets, just from its own balance. I have got a straight bar across my hand. I feel the same pressure all the way along my hand. Copper seems to induce saliva, keeps the horse's mouth wetter. A horse's mouth that is wet is sensitive to feel. Why then have a great big old spoon up there? The roof of that horse's mouth is shaped like that. As we pull this bridle back, this does nothing but come up against the roof of the horse's mouth. He'll carry this bridle without even a set of reins on there.
The headstall is pretty common for about any kind of bit that a cowboy might use. And of course the split reins are almost exclusively used down here. You'd call this a grazing bit. These bits were made by Mr. Adolph Byers. Mr. Byers made a lot of gear for cowboys in this country. The engraving's about gone just from all the brush. It's pretty nice at one time. But that's the reason you don't see much silver down in this country. Most grazing bits got a little tongue relief. The spade bit tends to have a straight bar. You can argue at length which bit is more severe. Down here we'd say, well, the spade bit's severe because there's no tongue relief. Either bit can be very soft or very harsh depending on the hands holding them bridle reins.
Cowboy artist Mike Capron has captured this age-old argument.
This painting was in West Texas. Both styles were correct. Either one of them could probably get the job done in equal amount of time. They're leaving camp and they're headed out on a cattle drive. These are point men going out. The cowpuncher is riding and listening, and the buckaroo's doing all the talking. He's still trying to convince the cowpuncher his way's better than the cowpuncher's, and the cowpuncher ain't buying it. He's riding along, he's listening, but he could care less. He's stuck in his ways and he knows it, and the buckaroo's stuck in his ways, and he's having the time of his life trying to convince the cowpuncher that his way's better. It's a form of entertainment. They will pick at each other's weaknesses, and if they find a weakness, they will continue to hammer on him until they get a little edge on him.
When cowboys need a saddle or a pair of leggings, they head for Big Bend Saddlery.
This is a saddle I've got going here. It's Tree Styles of Will James. Warren Wright is the tree maker. This is just going to be a typical kind of rig like we would build for somebody working cattle in this part of the world. It's all rough out. It's got a flat plate rigging in it, semi-round skirts, twisting the stirrup leathers. Even though the styles change back and forth, there's really not a great deal of change in saddle making. And how they look today is the way they were done at the turn of the century. Change is pretty slow in the saddle making deal. Rawhide bulldog tapaderos or toe fenders. A gentleman by the name of Bill Elliott started making these, and he makes them for us. They're harder than a rock, but they're really light. They've really caught on. People using them in the brush. They're not very pretty. Matter of fact, they're pretty dadgum ugly, but they are really functional.
We make about 3 styles of leggings. Shotguns, chinks, and some variation of a batwing. These are a traditional Texas shotgun legging. The leather is reversed. Fringe is pretty functional. It will help you bend your knee. Standard Texas style, string in the front, belt in the back. I'm going to show you how to step into shotgun leggings. I'm going to hold these up in front of me like this and then reverse them. From here, there's a nice opening for you to stick your foot through. If you're wearing spurs, it doesn't matter. And then here comes the next leg. You can push it through and then spin them around, pull them up to where you want them, and zip them up.
This old pair of chaps here somebody brought in, those come from Musqui's, Mexico. It's an old ranching community. Back in the 70s, boy, if you could get a cowboy from Musqui's, a Muscaño, well, you had a really good hand working for you. He must have been a little feller because all you could get in that pocket's one little burrito.
It's spring branding time again, and it's still dry.
I think I saw a cloud yesterday. Hung around a minute, and it just blew away. It's another identical dusty day. Only thing not telling a lie is the wind. I don't believe it's ever gonna rain again. All signs fail in a dry spell. Don't look to the sky, he's got nothing to tell, but there are cracks in the ground that run straight to hell. Maybe we're paying for our sins. I don't believe it's ever gonna rain again.
These 06 cowboys will gather and brand cattle at 9 camps.
During the spring roundup, it'll take a little over 2 weeks. We'll brand from 50 calves a day to
150. And we have ewe pens all over the ranch where we can gather to those pens, and those small calves don't have to go a long distance.
Some of these ropers dally.
A lot of horses are good to pull. You teach them how to pull with dally off, and you rope a log, and those horses become confident, and pretty soon you're loading a 1,000-pound bull in a trailer. If you tie on, then you've got a loop, and you have a slide knot, and you just put it over your saddle horn. Some of these cowboys that are really good with tying on and know how to handle that and know when to get that rope off the saddle horn if something happens. Some horses are stout to the horn, depends how they're built. If you have a slower horse, it doesn't have a lot of speed, you're probably going to tie off if you're open pasture. If you have a fast horse, that horse can rate those cattle well and get up on a cow or a yearling, and you can rope them, and then you have time to dally.
We're going to rope something in the pasture. Generally we'll tie on, that way nothing gets away. And in the pens here where it's small and we're dragging calves, we'll generally dally. That way you can give the guys on the ground a little slack after they flank the calf, less chance of a wreck. I learned to dally first, but I've been roping since I was a little kid.
We're all twisting in the wind. I don't believe it's ever gonna rain again.
Leoncita cattle, we generally get quite a few of them in here when we work over here. We're going to take them back down to the flats and call the beards and either send them back or send them to the sale and send them a check.
We have a chuck wagon, we camp out, and we have a cook and bedrolls and teepee tents. It's just a lot handier to do that than go all the way back to headquarters and then leave out early the next morning and get to where you're going.
As the cowboys ride into camp, storm clouds are forming. Every cowboy here has his own style, but they can't help critiquing when something different shows up, like a tweed jacket.
You know what's crummy is that it actually makes you look halfway decent.
But it's a facade. Facade? A facade.
The cook will feed us breakfast in the morning.
Beans, noodles, cake, bread.
Sometimes he'll have to move camp to where we're branding and feed us lunch, and then he'll move into another location where we're going to have supper. And so the cook may move 3 times. And he's well organized. He's got a couple of helpers. He has a real hard job. He does a good job. He likes to do it.
But you know, I've never eaten a bad meal here. Sam and I come for free just to eat.
The cowboys are like any working man at lunch, reading a newspaper.
I was reading about Solar's baseball team.
You can't read.
They lost a doubleheader.
It really is going to rain today. Everyone's headed for the shelter.
This country needs it. These little showers are just enough to start things, but we need real rain.
This is a good time for a little trading.
Buying a headstall and some rain.
Don't put it on film, I don't pay taxes on it. We work on the barter system.
Just a few years we'll have gold coins instead of dollar bills.
Yeah, probably. Just some headstalls that I've built, some bridle rein, syrup, just a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
We bring our horses in the afternoons. We'll cut out the horses for the next day. And the way we do that is rope them out, hula hand. That way it'll draw them down to a smaller group of horses. We'll put them in a night trap and then catch them out the next morning the same way. We always put an extra horse or 2 in that group so that if they come in injured, horses are horses, they're going to get hurt. Some know how to stay away from that, but a lot of these younger horses, they'll walk right into a bunch of old horses. They'll kick them.
Jump on that ball, beat. Waste all of it you want to, Sam. Y'all can go with the remuda whenever y'all get ready.
We have 90 horses in the remuda. We'll move them along with the chuck wagon. It's done a lot like it was a number of years ago, way back there. It works pretty well.
Last night, the crew had some time off to get a shower and go to town. The horses are anticipating their arrival. They know they'll be working today.
Getting ready to move up to number 5. We'll move the remuda up there and we'll eat dinner there. Move a bunch of horses to number 6. And we'll be there for 3 nights. We're in good shape today. We might even smell a little better.
We're at headquarters. This is 100 years old that the coconuts have been on this piece of the ranch. This is where we're based out of because we can go to the number 5 camp this way, the number 9 camp this way, and this is kind of central.
Majority of my career I've been in Texas cowboying. Generally everybody I paint I know. One of the remnants, one of the last cattle to come in, this is Randy. And this was from near Hatch Crossing at the 06s. This is up at the Pitchfork Ranch when they brand the colts. This is Jake Prince, Chris Abbott, and Chad Breaker. This is Chris Spencer from the 06 Fall Gather. I just started this piece, we're just starting to sketch it out. He was leading out the remuda. We were taking the horses from headquarters here up to number 9.
So what do you think about that painting, Chris?
I'm not sure it's me.
I haven't finished it yet. I just started this before we left.
Yeah, there's no defining characteristics on there. My face isn't on there.
Big Ben celery, bat wings, whatever I need to carry. Maybe a little knife, little pieces of leather, whatever I can fit in there. Tie down calves or anything that gets away, we rope them and tie them down.
A man named Mr. Beck from Amarillo made them for me about 2.5 years ago.
And they're very bright green.
Yes, ma'am. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
So you have new boots?
Yes, ma'am.
What's that symbol there?
It's a yin-yang, just kind of peace and love, no fighting and everybody stays calm. Just everybody chill out and have fun. Everything goes hand in hand. There's no need in getting in a hurry or getting excited. Kind of pun on fun. Peace, love, and luck is all you need to get through life.
These cowboy boots, they were made by M.L. Leddy. They've helped to keep me steady on nights when I've been tight. These cowboy boots, they have two-step through Laitas, been bathed in margaritas on the Star of Texas nights. These cowboy boots are just the bottom part of a life I chose to live. If it comes right to it now, there's nothing I wouldn't give for these cowboy boots.
Taking the cockleburrs out of his tail. Burrs are a lot like wire brushes.
Cockleburr from henceforth.
From henceforth, and I will call you Gray Eagle.
Gray Eagle, and I will call you Old Rattler.
And I will call you Kicking Bird.
Kicking Bird.
Or Wind and Hair.
Wind and Hair. No more hair for the wind, Old Rattler.
Everybody out.
These cowboy boots are just the bottom part of a life I chose to live. If it comes right to it now, there's nothing I wouldn't give for these cowboy boots.
This is probably one of the hardest drives we have due to the fact that we have to deal with all those Leoncita cattle. There's a canyon down there, one of the drives we call Horse Thief, and we lost about 20 head of Leoncitas down there this morning just because they ran over the top of us and you can't do anything with them. There's no way to get to them.
One of those Mavericks ran off some of our neighbors' cattle, Leoncita cattle, and they're just pretty wild. They don't respect anybody. They don't respect horses, cowboys, or anything else. They don't even respect these dogs that we brought in here today.
All those good dogs know that when something leaves a bunch, they're supposed to bring it back if they can. He was a pretty big bull and he was hot and he was already mad and they were kind of hanging on him, but we got him caught. But they jumped, and got a hold of him in different places on his ears and his nose and tried their best to stop him. And if a cow dog's got like a good cow horse, it's bred into them. They're going to go do what's right. You just need to be able to put them on and take them off and send them right or left or to the front, and they do that pretty well.
Lance roped him, and then they had to take the trailer over there and load him in the trailer because he was going to run off again.
Riding rough country along the high rim, the wind in the pinion singing old cowboy hymn about a breed of man that's mighty hard to rattle. He loves his rough country and running wild cattle. Rough country, wild cattle, catch 'em if you can. Run wild, you wild cattle, it's broken up land. Now ride hard for cattle that takes plenty of sand. Rough country, wild cattle take the measure of a man.
We were cutting out some of our yearlings, and then we were also cutting out some neighbor cattle that belong to the Leoncita Ranch. They're just wild and crazy, and they don't honor you, and they don't look for a gate when you get them cut out or anything else. They just run over you trying to go back to the herd.
And we went into a bad, brushy, rocky area where a lot of the neighbors' cattle were that are wild and pretty disrespectful. The dogs helped us hold some of those wilder cattle up where we could get a hold of them and get them kind of directed out there. These big bulls and Maverick cattle have been in there for years. That's home to them.
They probably lost 20 of them down in the canyon, but we brought some up here and loaded them in the trailer. It's a problem every time time we work this pasture.
Hopefully to be running close to 50 today.
Cowboy will have 2 or 3 colts and 2 or 3 older horses that he can depend on. And it depends on what drive it is or how hard it is what horse or what colt you ride. It's good for those colts to start to learn how to rope and drag calves to the fire, and we've trained lots of horses on the roundup. While dragging the fire, we'll have flankers. Cowboys give them shots and branding, earmarking. We use the regular stock saddles, regular bits. Most of these cowboys down here use split reins. If we need to get off and fix a fence, there's no use in tying a horse to the fence. A lot of times they'll sit back and break the reins and they're off. All the horses are taught to hobble, but some of them learn how to run just as fast as those hobbles on. We will wrap the reins around a post, tie them with one rein so you don't break both reins on your bit. A lot of those horses, if they're taught right at an early age to be tied to the fence, they will respect that and not go anywhere.
Part of the remuda is driven down to headquarters for a few days' rest.
One of the first horses we had here is a Joe Reed horse, and then we had Flato, and he's out of Crotonall. We had Akbar, Colonel Freckles. These bloodlines have a lot of natural cow in them. We can't let them get real small because they've got to withstand this country. I like to have a horse that'll cut a little bit and rope and just ride and gather. We'll have 10 colts to break every year. The smarter those horses are, the better we like it. If any of them take longer or have an attitude, we'll sell them. We just use the mares for breeding. We'll ride them for a couple of weeks. If they buck the cowboy off, well, that mare goes.
My spurs ring a two-beat rhythm, trotting down the draw. It makes my soul feel good. The horse I'm riding, he ain't no bad outlaw, but he'd buck me off if he could. Not many get to live the cow camp life, up here with the sagebrush and the freedom. My spurs ring a two-beat rhythm. It makes my soul feel good.
Backhand, hula hand,
whatever one it takes to get him caught.
This is a green horse, and it's his first roundup.
If the colt hadn't been started right, you're not going to be able to open the gate off of them. You're not going to be able to get on and off them without them moving around. It takes a long time to train a horse like you want.
We rode out of camp at daybreak, heading toward the sun to start the morning's gather. Our day had just begun. From the chousing and the roping, we wore our ponies out, so we swapped them all at noontime for another fresh and stout.
Cook has moved the chuck wagon to where the cowboys are gathering cattle.
We have a chuck wagon. It used to be horse-drawn, now it's motorized. The cook pulls it with his truck. He has a fly in case it rains. And he uses Dutch ovens, cooks on the ground with a fire.
We're cooking stew and potato salad, beans, and coffee. This is my best helper. If I don't have this, I can do nothing. Always I use it for take out the skillets. We can move the hot coals, and then if somebody make me mad, I can put this in the bag.
That old camp will be a welcome sight when we call it a day. Unsaddle all the ponies and feed them a bait of hay. Old Coosie'll cuss and grumble as he dishes out the red, and we'll spread her out till morning on Mother Nature's bed. Dragging them cattle from the chaparral, building a herd one by one. Busting that brush is pure hell, but we'll get it done one by one.
Lots of good rocks up here. It's not for the weak stakes.
The teepees are part of the cowboys' personal gear.
It's a 7x7. I believe like what Sam has over there is probably 9.5. Makes for a lot of room in there and throw all your gear. When the weather gets bad, people can come and sit around and talk.
Every cowboy has his own preference as to which direction the door should face.
Oh, I like to be where I can see towards the horses and be able to hear the cook when he rattles pans in the morning, so I know what time to get up. I think Indians always face east, cowboys supposed to face west. I don't know what the details, I always just face towards the fire wherever it is.
Teal prefers to face north.
You'll get in a little bit of a north breeze where the sun rises. Just certain ways to keep your tent cooler.
At this point in the roundup, we're not quite halfway, but we've changed camps. And from moving the remuda last time is a whole lot easier. The first time when the horses get together, they have to work out who's on top and who follows who and who gets to eat first. So a lot of that's taken care of now, and they fall in gentlemen-like.
A lot of the cowboys gravitate to different horses in their string, these roundup cowboys, whenever they really like a colt and start talking to me about buying one. Then I start thinking, well, he must be a pretty good horse if he likes him, and sometimes let that colt go when he pays us. A lot of times I'll start looking at him like, well, maybe I want to ride him if he thinks so much of him. We've had horses in the remuda that one cowboy would not like at all. The next spring, a different cowboy rides this particular horse, and he really loves him and wants to take him home.
Everybody out! 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 Go! Gerald and JJ leaving from here to go with Shiloh this afternoon, and then you'll just keep your horses up for in the morning.
He just got bit by the other horses. Every now and then they get bit in the remuda.
This is a day that's kind of confusing. We're going to start from 2 different places tomorrow. We have to get from one camp to another, chuck wagon, all the rigs, and make sure that everybody has their tomorrow's horse today with all their tack and where they're going to be overnight and ready for tomorrow.
A couple of the guys are already at camp clearing brush for the branding. The rest of the crew is gathering cattle as they go.
We want them to stay scattered out. We want them to use these mountains. We want them to go down the canyons. We'll put out these protein tubs. We use a biodegradable tub that they eat the whole thing. And a lot of these cattle, they don't run from you if you drive up with a pickup, but if you see a horseback, going to get gathered. But you just got to keep those cattle from running off. There's a wild one or two left around. You'll see her maybe once, and then she darts off in a canyon and won't see her until the next year.
We're splitting the crew. Some of us will start from here and work some country back this direction. Then the rest of the crew will start from down there at camp and work their way up this way. This drive tomorrow's number 6. Here, let me have one.
Meanwhile, at the other camp, the cowboys do chores and work on their gear.
I'm going to splice these 2 pair of reins together. I try to make most of my stuff. I don't have a whole lot of extra money.
Some guys like to visit, others relax and catch a few winks. And over in the teepee village, Sam Dove is holding court in his double wide.
You know the story that the guys always come up after camp and they talk about women and getting to town and all the wild and crazy stuff. And then when you get to town, all we talk about is wild cows and riding broncs and all that. You know, it's the same deal. You know, wherever you are, you talk about where you're not.
Mm-hmm.